This is renal artery. They carry large amounts of blood from the aorta to the kidney. This is renal vein. The main blood vessels that carries blood from the kidney and ureter to the inferior vena cava. This is the renal cortex. The solid-looking outermost part of the kidney. It contains many small arteries and veins that carry blood to and from approximately 1 million nephrons located in the cortex. This is the medulla, the region located inward from the cortex. These are the fibrous or striped triangular zones in the medulla that contain the collecting ducts which collect urine from the kidney tubules of the nephrons in the cortex. Between the pyramids are the renal columns that contains middle-sized arteries and veins that carry blood between the nephrons in the cortex and the renal artery and vein. The hollow area in the center of the kidney is the renal pelvis, which should not be confused with the bone called the pelvis. The collecting ducts drain into the pelvis. From there, the urine passes out through the ureter to the urinary bladder. Unfiltered blood enters the kidney through the renal arteries and found in the hyaluronic region. It branches off into segmental arteries, and then it will get along the spaces between the renal pyramids known as the renal columns. These blood vessels are known as the interlobal arteries. After which it will split off into the top of the base of the renal pyramids known as the arcuate arteries. Then it will further branch into the renal cortex as the interlobular arteries are cortical radiate arteries. These blood vessels serve multiple nephrons, while filtration of the blood occurs specifically in the glomerulus. Blood is supplied to the glomerulus via afferent arterioles. Once the waves are filtered, blood exceeds the afferent arterioles and then diverge into the peritubular, which supply bloodstream proximal in the cell convoluted tubules and into the collecting duct and into the vasa recta, which supplies blood to the loop of Henle. It will converge again in the cortical-radiate veins or in the interlobular veins. Then it passes through the arcuate veins at the base of the pyramids. This leads to the blood back to the real columns and the interlobal veins, which then goes to the renal veins in the hyaline region before sending the filtered blood to the inferior vena cava of the heart. The glomerular filtration, which happens in the renal cortex, the origin of filtrate comes from the water and the smaller solute first to the capillary walls of the blood vessels and the glomerular capsule first to the renal tubule. Second, tubular reabsorption, which happens the moment when the filtrate from the moment capsule enters the proximal convoluted tubule. This happens again in the renal cortex. Useful substances in the filtrate transform it out in the tubule and then return into the bloodstream to the adjacent capillaries. Majority of water absorption happens in proximal convoluted of the cortex. Lastly, tubular excretion. Hydrogen and potassium ions creating means in drugs are further removed from pericular blood and secreted by tubule cells into the filtrate. These secreted ions plus the filtrate form the urine. The urine then flows out of the nephron tubule and the collecting duct, passing through the renal pelvis into the ureter, and then it will gonna go down the urinary bladder, so that includes the pathway of the filtrate of the urine.